is. All right. Add. Boom.
Add. Boom, baby. Looks like we're going live right now, guys, which is a good thing. All right. Do a little tuning, John, guys. Oh yeah, Retro Revolution checking in right now. What's up, everybody? Your host, Mr. Mysterious here. Time for a little breakdown live right now. Don't worry, they can hear you guys. It's okay. You guys can all talk. It's all right. Talk show.
Yeah, buddy.
Time for the breakdown. Going live right now on our screen. There we go, everybody. What's up? We're missing Mike Maverick. He'll get in there when he's ready to get live here. Anyway, guys, good evening. It is Wednesday. And guess what? We got special guest Jeff Wittenhagen checking in here as well. T. Sleaze, we got the Deuce Trippy, yours truly, Mr. Mysterious. The Doge is hanging out, which is a big rarity. Well, if I can get him to talk. What's up, guys? Oh, Jeff, you're in trouble today. And
I'm always in trouble.
And we got Mike Maverick going to be checking in shortly. And guys, like, share, subscribe, be a part of Retro Revolution and whatnot. And while we figure out the Mike Maverick situation, that's Super Ace Gamer. He should be here shortly. Jeff Wittenhagen is our special guest today, author of an upcoming book for the Virtual Game Boy. Jeff, let's get right into the meat and potatoes. Talk about it. What's the good story about your book and everything? What's making you want to do a Virtual Game Boy and all that?
So, story behind the Virtual Boy book. Basically, it was an April Fool's joke, and it went viral.
Oh, really?
Nice.
Yeah. So, if you don't know, that will be my 12th book I have published on the Virtual Boy.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so basically, I just got done having a successful launch of my pocket version of my Super Nintendo Collector's Guide. Covers all the licensed games for Super Nintendo, and like literally a month later, I'm like, all my fans of my books have always have said, you need to do a Virtual Boy book because it'll be like a little tiny little pamphlet, and making a joke out of it. And I'm like, well, yeah, we'll see, because I want to have a nice sized book that you can have on your collection. Mm-hmm. And so I did some templating, and I had it up to 100 pages.
Wow.
Now when I say the complete Virtual Boy, I'm not just talking about the less than 24 licensed games we got here in the United States. I'm talking not only those, but also the 8 to 10 Japanese exclusive games, plus all and all the unreleased games as well. So tons and tons of stuff.
Okay.
Sounds like we got another person on.
Yeah, everybody just moved over 1 second. So let me flip them up. Go ahead, continue what you were saying now. While I go and fix this all up. Trippy is now known as the Deuce. The Deuce is now known as Trippy.
The Trippy Deuce.
Deuce. Oh my God!
Mike comes
Live
in at the
TV
right
is
time.
Awesome. Live TV is awesome.
I know. I'm not worried about it. It's okay. I'll fix this.
And this is actually a good time. Let's check in on the chat. The Deuce. Who we got checking in on the chat tonight?
Oh, we got lots of people. We got some of our friends, Ayu and Cheska, over from the Philippines, checking in. We got Daniel Oldenkamp from Dan Camp Gaming. We got Redbeard up in the house. Timothy Batchelor, the Lazy Snorlax. We got Robert Villarreal and Glitter Queen Gamer Girl, all checking in, just saying hi. Cheska says, drag him. Jason Gutierrez checking in as well. Lots of good stuff going on chat. It's great. We got Mike Maverick joining us here on the chat. So he's awesome. It looks like you just joined the chat, TC.
Oh yeah, I'm checking in.
But
checking in.
Yeah, I actually I never owned a Virtual Boy. So my thing was when I saw this book, took a peek at it on Amazon, and I'm looking at it and I'm going, what on earth is going on here? And I was absolutely amazed at the amount of content that you put in there. And I love I don't know how else to put the ports, the hacks. How would you phrase that, Jeff?
All right, so before I get off topic, let me try not to knock over my camera. Let me see. There we go. So how I phrase it is there's multiple categories. First, you have games that were supposed to come out on the Virtual Boy but never were released but were completed because the Virtual Boy tanked. So you have a few of those games that were actually then subsequently released, and those are aftermarket releases.
Okay.
Then you have a whole homebrew scene that exists out there. And so those games are made typically by a programmer. However, they're still aftermarket releases, so they were released aftermarket. One game would be like Hyper Fighter, which is a Street Fighter 2 port to the Virtual Boy that's really competent. Of course, any game on the Virtual Boy gives you a headache after 15 minutes, just because that's the standard. So like the game that I went and grabbed, this right here is another different oddity. So this is a Game Boy cartridge for the Virtual Boy. So it plays a specific amount. It can hold 4 Game Boy games on any cartridge, and they custom make these.
Awesome.
So on here I have Zelda Link's Awakening, Metroid 2, Tetris Game Boy, and Mario Land 2 on here.
Now, that actually allows you to play the games on the Virtual Boy.
Yes, so it's a Game Boy games in the Virtual Boy, and you can put like some games look better than others. The guy who created the program to convert it says that not everything works perfectly, but like this is something that exists. So then every one of these would be uniquely tailored to each person. So that's where collected for the Virtual Boy could be a never-ending type of adventure.
That's pretty cool. That's really
that's
cool.
awesome.
That's something I've never even heard of. Wow.
So that's the depth I'm going with this book, by the way. It's not just the simple history that everybody's talked about with the U.S. releases. Like, I'm going deep down the rabbit hole because I'm OCD like most collectors.
Jeff, my wife has a question for you. She wants to know, what is your favorite U.S. or whatever released Virtual Boy game? Not hacker. What is your favorite?
By far, Wario Land on the Virtual Boy.
Excellent game.
So, like, a story that I'm going to tell in my book, because the book is not only about the games, but it also can be about stories.
Right.
So our history growing up with it, which will also be really cool to read, so it won't just be reviews or one-sided reviews. So I got my Virtual Boy for $25 at KB Toys back in the day when it went on sale.
Basically, after
I left the sticker on my box. I left the sticker on my box, and I still have it. Awesome. And I got Virtual Boy with it. That was the game that was so good that it was worth the migraines to play.
Right.
And actually, like, one of the things, too, is as people comment on Kickstarter or Facebook, one of the funniest comments, and it's going into the book, was somebody said you need to put that rest screen in the book.
Oh, yeah, I know the rest screen.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, like, literally, when you get done with the U.S. releases, the next page says, take a break. It has a little toggle switch.
Yep.
That's really
I enjoyed the boxing game. What was that?
Tellero Boxer.
Yeah. That was kind of cool,
I had it, and I don't like it.
Now, I mean, for what's out now, obviously, but for the time, you know what I mean? It was kind of cool.
Well, like, see, now, I'm a huge Super Punch-Out guy.
Yeah.
And so basically, I actually have world records on the game. Like, I have Twin Galaxy cards and stuff.
Really?
And,
wow.
Yeah, that's kind of how I got, like, viral, was through that whole Twin Galaxy scene. I met an artist who did my complete NES cover, which was the Garbage Pail Kids artist, and I didn't know that. And it went viral. But knowing and being really good at Punch-Out and Super Punch-Out, when I played Tellero Boxer, it just felt off to me because the AI, and it's like the enemy AI, they constantly duck and block. And
yeah, it's really a weird system how you have to use both sides of the controller to do all left hand and right hand move. It's definitely not out there.
Yeah, and so doing research on it for the book, I realized that R&D 3 at Nintendo is who did all of the games for the Virtual Boy, and R&D 1. I may have the numbers confused, but R&D 1 is the one who did Punch Out and Super Punch Out. So literally, they used the Virtual Boy programmers for all the Virtual Boy games, and they didn't use the people that were, experts in the arcade and console Punch-Out games. So that's why it feels weird, even though they're both developed at Nintendo. Yeah, so you got your Gunpei Yokoi version of Punch-Out. Yeah.
I enjoyed the tennis game as well.
The tennis game is excellent,
if I might add. Yes.
Well, let me ask you, Jeff, when you started doing this book and whatnot, what was the toughest game for you to actually review that you had to sit there and like really grind and cringe and go, ugh, I gotta play this to get through this with the book?
So that being said, like I took this to Kickstarter as a kind of an April Fool's joke, and then it got funded in like an hour and a half.
I saw that. Yeah, that was crazy.
So I didn't have a plan to release it unless it got funded. So I actually only wrote all of the stuff last weekend for the licensed games. Like I'm working on it. So I literally before y'all called me here, I was working on expanding all the physical releases to 2 pages because that was an end stretch goal. Was making everything 2 pages. I'm still working on getting a few of the games reviewed, but I do know that baseball is pretty painful.
Yeah, that's right.
That was very.
Golf is pretty complex.
Have you played terrible? Have you tried Waterworld yet? Because I know that's pretty brutal.
Oh, I'm saving that for last. Somebody requested 6 pages of Waterworld, at least 6 pages.
That's a bad run.
Yeah. And then of course, normally in my books when I cover Japanese games or games from another region, I only focus on the ones that you can understand without knowing Japanese or knowing that language.
Makes sense.
So it's like a platformer or something that you could enjoy. So it's for collectors. Well, there's still little games on the Virtual Boy that I'm going to cover them. So I think that some of the games are going to be virtually unplayable, like virtually.
Yeah.
One of the games that looks cool that I haven't tried yet is this Innsmouth game. Which is like a dungeon crawler horror game that's like Resident Evil.
Cool.
But there's an English translation, so when I play it, I'll play the English translation.
Very cool. Very cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, continuing about you, let's talk about you for a second. Now, you said you have published countless books. How many books in total you said you've done?
I'm on 12 different releases. Some were re-releases in different formats, like my definitive Super Nintendo book is 630 pages.
Wow.
It's like, I have them all sitting like right over here. I can grab them and show them.
Be my guest. I would love to show them.
Yeah, so next time you take a break to read chat, I'll grab a few of my newest ones.
No problem. What was your favorite one that you really had that enjoyment of doing out of your books?
So being like a little bit OCD, I enjoy creating my comprehensive collector guide. So I've done Nintendo, Super Nintendo. I'm currently working on Sega Genesis for my next big book.
Nice.
And those are all super fun because I get to play every single game. Even if somebody's like reviewing the game, because I have a lot of YouTubers that like contribute and, give their own perspective on reviews. I'll still play every single game for it, which is super cool. But by far my favorite one was my first book, which I just re-released, and it was all on hidden gaming gems. So I covered every game not every game, but every console generation from Pong all the way up to the Nintendo Switch. And we covered a bunch of like hidden gaming gems for each one. It was just super, super fun.
That sounds really cool, man.
I saw that on the list of books by you, and that may be one I have to pick up because I love those hidden gem games. I mean, they're what I love to see. So, I mean, often you miss. That's why they're called hidden gems, because people miss them, and they're phenomenal games.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just so fun to create that type of a book too, because it's very artistic. Lots of giant spreads, and then all the stories behind it. And each game has at least 4 to 8 pages on it. So yeah, and I write minimalistically by nature because I don't enjoy reading like walls of text even in a book because my time is limited just as everybody else. That's why I play retro games. But so my comprehensive collector guys, there's short write-ups, whereas like even this Virtual Boy book is going to be more verbose writing than I'm used to doing because I'm used to doing like 3 to 4 like sentences in a paragraph per game. And I cover 1,000 games in a book.
Now I never heard of UN Squadron, which I'm holding right now.
Super
Nintendo. I never heard of it ever since until I saw a review from K-Wing 01, if you heard of this guy.
I've never heard of K-Wing, but
yeah, he used to do like retro reviews, but now he's just doing like most of the comic reviews and gameplay footage and stuff like that.
Okay.
And also Demon's Crest, which is another rare title as well.
Demon's Crest is excellent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And of course, Potful Mail. I do have Potful Mail somewhere. I don't know where I can find it though. It's just another awesome. Another awesome title.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so UN Squadron was actually based off a Japanese anime called Area 88. And and there's an arcade version too, which is a little bit different, and I actually prefer the Super Nintendo version over it because they added a lot of features to the Super Nintendo version. And of course, being Super Nintendo, I played every Super Nintendo game, which is ridiculous. But I have like a never-ending slew of knowledge when it comes to video games nowadays. Just played so many now.
Super Nintendo is my forte.
Love Super Nintendo. Yeah, I released my first Super Nintendo book in 2015. Nice. Yeah.
Very nice. Let's check in on the chat. We can check in on the chat. Trippy, you checking out the chat? Why don't we get you involved in the show here? What's going on in the chat?
Let's see. All right, we got all right, what's the last thing we heard? We got Ethan Woody here. Can you give the link for the Kickstarter if it actually is going to be real?
So yeah, the Kickstarter did finish yesterday, but there is on the Kickstarter page. There's a link to my Shopify store because I always print extra books. Any extra money I make from Kickstarter, I order more books so that way we have them in stock. Because
and let me just say, I think what they're saying, Jeff, and a lot of people are weary with Kickstarter, but what I want to say is if you guys look up who Jeff is, he has a lot of published books. Mm-hmm. So this isn't going to be the Atari PC.
Hold on 1 second, and I'm going to go grab if I can carry them all over here, because each book weighs 8 pounds, by the way.
Get that library.
And I don't, listen, guys, I don't back anything, and I can tell you right now, I met Jeff 2 or 3 years ago at Retro World Expo in Connecticut, and straight-laced dude. I mean, he's not one of these, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, whores. He's definitely a talented, entrepreneur, and he puts out great product. If you guys look him up, I mean, I think your first book was 91, Jeff, right?
Well, Jeff's actually getting the books right now. So.
Okay, and I believe that was the video game culture. So
yeah, he's definitely going to show them all. Yeah, I've actually met Jeff a long time ago. Now, recognizing his face at another one of the cons. And Class Act really does some amazing books and stuff like that. And this is
right, yeah.
Holy cow.
All
right, so
let's
start
with
my life.
Everybody.
All right. So let's go in, you want me to go in order?
Hey, that works.
All right, so this was my first book I had published back in 2012.
That's a book
Hidden Treasures.
That I want to pick up. That is a
so
really
this
good book.
This is the re-release. Hidden Gaming Gems.
That
so
is nice.
See the comparison?
Now here's the now just it's updated obviously, right? You just added to it.
So I went from tiny book with 150 pages to 500 pages.
Oh, that's a dream right there.
Full art and when I'm saying
gems.
like
Wow.
when I'm saying like full art, like
wow,
like giant
spread.
I
gotta take this. Wow,
that's a book we gotta pick up.
Like, and the thing is, I constantly raise the bar on myself as I learn new techniques and find new ways. Like for example, on PS4, back before it became super popular, I covered Oxy and Verge.
Cool.
And and then the artist. So this book right here, and I do this with a lot of my books. This is a throwback cover. The artist drew this in 1992. It's the same guy who did the cover art for Power Blade.
Oh, wow.
And this was unused.
That's
And-
I'll buy that for $1.
Yeah, exactly. And it's exactly like the thing is. So there's a game called Knight and Grail in here. That's a Commodore 64 aftermarket release, and there's a knight on the front. So I was like, that kind of works. The whole format of the font and everything. There's this book I have from the 90s called The Big Book of Nintendo Games. So I made it a complete throwback to that.
That's awesome. Wow.
And the original release of this Hidden Treasures book was in Europe, and I actually have the European cover that never materialized because the publisher went defunct in Europe. I actually threw that on the back cover.
That's awesome.
Because 3D Dot Game Heroes was the newest hidden gaming gem when I released this first book.
That's freaking cool as hell, man.
Okay, so then after that, so that was actually a newer and an older, and I consider that 2 releases. So that's where it's how many uniques I have is a different story. So then this was my first Kickstarter.
Complete NES. I've actually seen that book around before. Definitely seen that.
This artwork I actually had commissioned by Joe Simcoe, who does Garbage Pail Kids.
Wow.
Hell yeah.
And you'll see this art. People post the art, and they'll literally crop my title off the top and everything, and then post it. And I'm like, well, I have the original. And it's literally the pencil drawing is sitting up on my wall.
That's
I have the original. Today, somebody tagged me in an 8-bit group, and somebody got a tattoo of this.
That's awesome.
And I was like, and I said it to the artist. And he's like, holy shit, that's cool. And it's like, this is actually supposed to be me. So I'm like, the guy got a tattoo of me on it. Hopefully it's on his ass.
No. Now, Jeff, you say something about NES. Do you also consider a hidden gem Vice Project Doom?
I love Vice Project.
Vice Project.
Oh my god,
Yes.
so good, so good. We actually covered that on VGBS because on my
Awesome.
podcast we do what's called bullshit homework because all homework is bullshit, and we played Vice Project Doom fully to completion, did gameplay tactics and shit. We kind of
Now, if you
super fun.
Now, if you step into the Sega Genesis territory,
Oh, yeah.
I say these two, Valis and Valis 3.
Valis 3.
Classic. I got that.
So one of the games that was covered in the Hidden Gaming Gems book was Battle Mania 2.
Yes, Battlemania. I remember
Battle
that.
Mania 2 was only released in Japan, and one of my buddies covered that game, and that game is excellent.
Yeah.
Or in the U.S. is called Troubleshooter.
Yes, Troubleshooter. Yeah, exactly. And that game is super cool. And then another game I covered, which is an aftermarket release, is Pure Solar.
Yeah, Pure Solar was I believe that actually was a homebrew game, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's a homebrew game, and it landed on the PC, which is on Steam. I bought it on Steam.
And on Dreamcast.
Yes,
Yeah.
Dreamcast I'm aware of. Yes.
So the coolest part about the original Genesis release, because they reworked it for the PC, they made it HD. But the Genesis one uses a technique that was available to Genesis games that no game used. So you have a CD for the Sega CD, and you put it in the Sega CD while you play the cartridge, and you can have CD audio while you play it off the cartridge.
Oh, that's really cool.
It's so cool.
That's something
It's so
good.
cool.
Now for the games in around the 2008, 2005, or 2006 area, games like the Izuna series, which is another rare title, Izuna 1 and Izuna 2.
Nice.
Yeah, it's something that we should all cover if anyone is getting started to the retro gig. I consider these retro.
Nice.
All right, no problem.
I'm a huge advocate of collecting new retro as well. So I've been collecting for the Switch, which that's literally the next release that I'm going to do. Because the Genesis book's going to take me another year or two to write. But I'm doing a Switch collector, and I'm going to start with Volume 1 will have to be the first year, and then I'll continue on.
Yeah,
Because I want to do art like this Hidden Gaming Gems book in it. And if I do that, it won't fit into like a 1,000-page book.
Well,
So.
let me ask you, your books in general, are they available on Amazon, or do we have to go to a special site to look at that and whatnot? Or?
And by the way, this is still in my lap. It's like
we'll
20
get
pages.
to those. Don't worry.
So I try to make them available in as many places as possible because, like, I constantly get emails of people trying to find certain stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, this NES book has been out of print for 3 years.
Really?
I've printed, I think, 2,000 my initial print run, and they've been out of stock for a while.
That's phenomenal.
So when they go out of print, like, I have to do another campaign to raise funds because this is my hobby on the side.
No, that's awesome, man.
Yeah. So like the Hidden Gaming Gems, for example, I think I have maybe 40 books left in the print run. They've sold.
Let me ask you actually, for the Hidden Gaming Gems itself. Again, I it's so funny talking to you because you're a very vast knowledge of video games. I myself really like going after the oddities and the rarities and the hidden gems. Like, what's your favorite hidden gem that you've actually got a chance to play while doing your book and whatnot?
See, that's like a loaded question because
I know it is.
I've literally enjoyed so many of them, and it depends. I did the generation by generation because every single generation I found something awesome.
Correct, I agree.
Like in the original, like Atari to Nintendo era, like Friday the 13th on the Commodore.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, I was gonna be like, all right, this stream's about to end now, you know.
on the Commodore.
Okay, I got you.
Where you actually literally run around, grab weapons, and murder all the campers because Jason's masquerading as one of them.
Oh, cool.
and they scream when you kill them, like they go, ah! Like it's really cool.
Now you talk about screaming. Is it scream like in what's it called, Golden Axe type scream?
It's blow out your speakers so loud because it's trying to do like a jump scare. Super cool. So one game that I covered is, and a hidden gaming gem can be any myriad of definitions. One that people know about but nobody talks about, but everybody's now requesting nowadays: Star Tropics.
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
So good.
It is a great game.
Yeah, and so then if you go NES, like truly hidden, I would say Crisis Force.
Yes, Crisis Force. I've heard of that.
Oh, so good.
Very
Now,
good.
if you want to go for Sega CD, I say Pop Mail. Now that is my favorite game right there.
One that I covered that I specifically had to because the wife made me was on the Sega CD Eternal Champions.
Yes,
and
was good.
Only because it actually is the sequel to the Sega Genesis version. It's the second game, and everybody thinks they're the same because Sega CD did that all the time.
I remember when I had a friend of mine that actually owned both the Eternal Champions and the one for the Sega CD. And when we got the Sega CD, all I can remember is the guy that he would look like the Dick Tracy character, and used to press the talk button. He used to go, "Punk, you punk," and then one called him a pig, and I was just like, but Eternal Champions itself that's a decent game. I agree with you on that one.
Shout out to Retro Game Magazine Mexico for the stars.
There you go. Thanks so much. We'll do a quick. Let me do the Doge. You want to do a drive-by, Doge, real quickly for the stars?
Drive-by.
Absolutely. Let me get in my costume for. I'll show you in 1 second. All right, star donation. Here comes the Doge, guys. Thanks for any stars. We did have some other stars as well come along our live stream right now. But there's the Doge hanging out with everybody. All right.
Almost sound like you're about to do a Road Warriors promo. Well,
who are you making fun of, Jeff? You got balls over there, buddy.
Let me tell you something. Oh, what a rush.
Oh, what a rush. Let me tell you something there, Jeff.
Speak to me, Warriors! No sleep, no food, no nothing. Just maniacism.
That's right.
So, Jeff, what other books do you have you want to show as well?
There we go.
Yeah, drag them.
Classics.
I'm back.
Classics. So, I could either go in order or I could stay on Nintendo and then move around. Because I've done 3 different books on Nintendo.
Well, listen, show whatever you like. I mean,
all right, so NES Compendium. So this one right here, it's a compendium of our history growing up with a Nintendo.
That's cool.
And it's like giant artistic spreads with stories of us either growing up with it or our favorite games. Like got Crystallis here and Mad Max. Mad Max was done by John Riggs. I have people all over the gaming community. Some people like had personal stories where they included their pictures, like playing bowling or different stuff growing up.
Hell yeah! Shout out John Riggs. Shout out John Riggs.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Riggs is one of my buddies. Actually, roomed with him, slept in the same bed as that guy at Portland one year.
Oh, hey now, hey now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, way back days. So the compendiums though are like a supplementary type of thing that I did because a lot of people wanted to tell their stories. So I did that as like a bonus book before I switched not publishers, but printing companies. So like printing companies are all various like qualities and prices. And so my current one does like the best quality I've ever seen in books. But my previous one was a little more affordable when it came to smaller print runs. So I could do like a Super Nintendo book and a Super Nintendo compendium. Whereas now I have to order more in bulk, but the quality is like through the roof.
I can imagine, yeah.
So now I can't really do the compendiums unless I do its own campaign. So that's why the Virtual Boy book is going to have those type of articles already in it. So the last NES book is this crazy monstrosity. And so my complete NES was only licensed US. This is the NES Oddities, and it's 500 pages. Wow. And it covers PAL exclusives, unreleased games, unlicensed games, Famicom games that don't require Japanese to enjoy, and then in the back, the Homebrew Revolution, and Famicom disc, accessories, but then every single homebrew game that was released up to the point, like 500 plus homebrew games. I have them categorized by physical, limited editions, where like you would have like a wooden box game or something that they made 5 copies of, or I have everything in here, and digital releases. This sucker is massive. The art was done by a guy named Philo Barnhart. He did art and animation for Dragon's Lair.
Oh,
cool.
Wow. With Don Bluth.
Very cool.
No kidding. That's awesome.
Yeah. And The Secret of Nim and The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast. The guy is like an animation, like an artwork, an art legend. And I was doing shots of sake with him at a gaming convention. That's how I met him.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
Warm sake or cold sake? Which one do you
that one was room temperature sake.
Ooh.
Room temperature, so it wasn't hot.
Yeah,
it wasn't
sake
hot.
is heresy.
I like cold sake. I like that better. That's
Cold sake? Yeah, it goes down a little smoother.
We're going to rename Mr. Mysterious to the Heretic.
the heretic.
All right, let's
So these big ones, though, and you see this size right here that I just put up? So this is the Pocket Guide versions.
Oh,
so when I said I did a Super Nintendo Pocket Guide, this is the size compared to my big ones. So this literally was my original idea, by the way, before everybody started just backing my giant books. And so it's literally like a little pocket guide that you could take around to conventions. Cool. That was the idea. And this is my complete NES version.
And where, if people are interested in buying these books, where can they buy them, Jeff? Where can they get where can we get our hands on those?
Main site would be HagensAlley.com.
All right, can one of the mods, can we please post that and pin that in the comments for me, please?
Yeah.
HagensAlley.com.
The top right-hand corner of the screen, whichever way I'm pointing. The top right-hand corner of the screen has the bookstore over there, and everything that's in stock is up there. Cool. Some of them are on Amazon, too, which probably save on some shipping, especially if you're international.
Well, definitely, cool. I can tell you right now, there's about 3 or 4 books that you pulled up. I'm absolutely going to buy. I like those small guys. Oh, I know. I'm a book connoisseur. Actually, there's a group called Hardcore Gaming 101, which made a lot of books, but they specified more towards the grouping, like the Konami collection.
Oh, I know, Kurt.
And
I go way back.
Books are awesome. And then to me, I'm a big book collector, so definitely what you're doing right there is absolutely right up my alley. I'm definitely going to be going to buy some of those books.
That's why it's Hagen's Alley, because it's right up your alley.
Yeah.
And real quick, if anybody has any questions in the chat for Jeff, leave them now. I want to throw some random questions from all of the the team here at Retro Revolution at you. I'll start off.
Sure.
Jeff, so my question to you is, what is your favorite game? Now, it can be a board game, it can be a card game, it can be anything. We don't have to just be video games, but what is your favorite gaming-related hobby, I guess you could say?
Well, I mean, it's video games for sure, and it's an easy one. It's Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past on Super Nintendo.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean, I have the Triforce right here.
Oh, shit.
and right here, I have Ganon. So.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, look at those guns. And there we go.
Galaxy's card, I'm doing this. So,
yeah.
Welcome to the gun show.
Welcome to the gun show.
And then just a secondary question to that. Now, you said you had records. What records do you have, and do you still have those records? Are you still obtaining those records currently?
So I set a myriad of them, but it was just as Twin Galaxies went out of, like, they changed ownership back in the day.
Okay.
The only ones that I got credit for was Gabby J and Glass Joe. So first guys in each Punch Out, and I think it was 6.64 seconds on Gabby J. And then Glass Joe, you can only tie it because it's as fast as you can go. But yeah, I tied that one. Like games like Wave Race 64, I have every world record saved on the memory card. But like Twin Galaxies,
you son of a bitch! I love that game.
That game's so awesome.
I was gonna say.
So we got a question here in the chat. Jafel Gallardo. He's one of our streamers. He's from the Philippines, actually, really good guy. Tito Lopes. He'll be coming on later tonight. He wants to know, what is your dream project outside of publishing books? That's actually a great question.
So, I mean, I've already kind of done the other thing I wanted to do. I've released some of my own NES homebrew games. And I've been working on and released a demo of Happy Scrappy Hero Pup, which is based off of my Chihuahua that my daughter drew all the animation for. And it's a platformer on the NES.
Awesome. Now, let me cut you off. We got a streamer on here, Super Retro Game Time Player 1. He's a cart-only streamer. Now, if you let me know where I can get those homebrews, we'll get those played and beaten live on the Retro Revolution, because we love the homebrews, so that's awesome.
I didn't know that. If you can get a hold of my limited homebrew, which I need to re-release because nobody can find it. It was covered on Metal Jesus Rock's channel. Riggs took it on there. It's called Jeffrey Wittenhagen's Black Box Challenge.
Yes, I've heard of it. Yes, yeah. Okay.
I'm Jeffrey Wittenhagen. It's my challenge. It's the first ever homebrew RPG.
Okay. Wait. Well, listen. Hey, the Deuce, the RPG man over here. You know,
I'm the only one that has gotten 100% in the game, besides with the creator.
Well, we'd love to run an exclusive over here on Retro Revolution. That would be awesome, no doubt. Okay, so Mike Maverick, do you have any questions for Jeff? What would you like to ask Jeff tonight? I think he's on mute. I think he's got his mic muted.
Oh, there it goes. Hey.
There
you go.
Yeah, because I had to mute because I was I don't want to hear you go click on the keyboard. But anyways, for all the retro games out there, for not all the retro games, outside the retro games, what do you have any favorite JRPGs entitled? You know, like any favorite JRPGs outside the retro games?
I really like outside of retro because, like, obviously Final Fantasy VII had the ultimate movement on a lot of people, and I was at the right age to play that back in the day. And I can absolutely consider that retro. I haven't really played a whole lot of RPGs outside of, like, South Park Stick of Truth recently.
Good game. I like it.
The game's so excellent.
It's fun.
Still up to now.
And then the new game Octopath Traveler on the Switch is
the Deuce.
Super good.
Yes.
Spoiler: the Deuce has got something coming out with that real soon.
Now, if you want to try something, try Crosscode. That game is awesome.
Really?
Crosscode is on Steam. You should try it out. If you love games such as Secret of Mana, Chrono Trigger, or
Absolutely.
any other games like Ease or something like that, that's the game right there.
Huge fan of Ease. Yep.
That's,
yeah.
Oh,
All right, let's get another question from the chat here.
You are the first person that I've heard has said I'm a huge fan of Ease.
Really?
Other than myself, I love Ease. I love the whole series.
I'm just a
3 was
huge
little
fan
bit
of
a
Book
departure.
1 on the TurboGrafx CD.
I was gonna
Like,
say,
that's
Book
so good.
Book 1 is awesome.
I still have the cartridge of 1 on the Sega Master System.
Oh, wow.
So right here, you can't see it probably because it's not good enough detail. But I have 3 Ease games sitting here for the MSX.
Oh, wow.
And they're the same size as a Neo Geo cartridge, and they come with full art books.
Wow. Wow.
like
Beautiful.
obscure. I saw it in a gaming group somewhere, and I was like, how much are those? I'm buying those.
You're my new favorite guest.
so Deuce, you said that you had this game too, right? This is I got East, and also I got the book as well. All this is in Japanese.
Well,
Nice.
I have the first one, not for the TurboGrafx 16, but for the Sega Master System.
Yeah.
Awesome.
The old white grid,
Yep.
white and blue grid.
For a while, I had every release of Ease besides for Japanese releases, and then after the newer ones that have come out, I kind of stopped because I had all the PSP ones too, the limited editions.
All right.
Now, we have a question here from Cheska Sarmiento. She's from the Philippines. She's a babe. She says, Final Fantasy or Breath of Fire?
So for me, it's Final Fantasy all the way, especially because of not just the original, but I prefer the original on the Game Boy Advance where they kind of modified and worked MP back into it, and it works correctly. And then, of course, Final Fantasy 4 and 6, Super Nintendo masterpieces.
Awesome. All right, Trippy, you got any questions for Jeff you'd like to ask?
Yeah. What other complete collections do you have?
So I actually don't, even though I make complete books, I don't collect complete. I collect what I know I will play and what I like. So literally, I would say the only thing I'm close to completing might be, Neo Geo. That's it.
Yes.
I-
Awesome.
like it's behind me
That's
is
my
literally
system.
a complete Neo Geo. The only thing I'm missing, why I don't have it complete, I'm missing 2 games. One I'm picking up on Friday. And it's because it was just released on the Switch. It was unreleased, and they released on the Switch. The code was dumped, and the guy who made the Omega, Neo Geo Omega system, the custom MDS, he makes repros of games that don't exist, and he's bringing me one because he loves my books.
What game is that, if I can ask?
I forgot the name of it, honestly.
All right.
Like, I just know. He's like, I can make that game for you. And I'm like, I don't have that. Please bring that. And he's like, I was like, my Hidden Gaming Gems book will be out. He's like, I want that. It's like, nice. And the other one that I'm missing is the Irritating Maze, the half that you can play it with the controller.
I know what it is. Yep, with the control stick. I played that before.
That's one that I don't have.
I think that's one of more of the original games that came out, the Irritating Maze.
Yeah.
When Neo Geo was first brought, with the cabinets, I believe was one of the early games that came out.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
And most of them I've collected in the wild, including like Windjammers and everything.
Wow.
Cool.
Now, we got a question here for you from Gil Guerrero Castillo. He wants to know, what else do you collect that is not a video game or a system?
So I have a very large vinyl and laserdisc collection.
Cool.
Like, I have
cool.
tons of laserdiscs. And what I like is that the laserdiscs are basically like the VHS grittiness, especially with like the horror movies and the scary movies. And then but they don't deteriorate over time.
Yep.
Hell yeah, brother.
That's fun.
Yeah, like my biggest tattoo is right here, and it's literally like Jason, Freddy, Pinhead, Leatherface.
I'm all about the Laserdisc too, man.
Yeah, I just
Scarface,
love all that
man.
stuff. Nice.
Hey, you never watched Scarface till you watched it on Laserdisc, all right?
True story. True story.
Hell yeah. This is my favorite guest now too, by the way. I like it.
Even if you throw it on like a 4K TV, Laserdisc still gritty.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. All All right, so let's get let's see, the douche. You got a question for Jeff tonight? I know you got to have something up your sleeve here.
I think I know the answer to this, but light side or dark side?
I mean, I'm always on the dark side.
Oh.
There you go.
Hey now. We have any more questions in the chat here?
We did have one. I say, I didn't catch the name, but have you done a full playthrough in one sitting of Link to the Past? And if so, what was your time? I believe that was Nina that asked that.
So I've definitely done that multiple times. It used to be before I started doing the books, because that has taken a big toll on my availability to play RPGs. But the books are fun too. But I think I was able to get it done in a couple hours. I don't speed run though at all. I collect everything in it though, like 100% collection in a couple hours. I know where everything is nowadays.
And we got
and I absolutely love the ancient stone tablets. If you've ever heard of that,
Yep.
It's so good. And I have an MSU1 cartridge, which is an SD to SNES, and you can play CD quality audio with Link to the Past, Ancient Stone tablets with the original. Somebody re-recorded the audio, so there's little pauses where like Princess Zelda come on and say, "Help! I've been captured," and you got to go like find her, and like it's actual spoken audio on the cartridge. That's cool. Mind blowing.
That's cool. So we got Daniel Oldenkamp in the chat. He wants to know, what are your top 3 prized possessions?
Top 3 prized possessions. Now, are we talking like video game related?
I'm assuming just in general.
In general, because I can go video games easy.
Let's keep it. Yeah, let's keep it. I mean, you could have Pamela Anderson tied up in your closet for all I know. You know what I mean?
That's quiet.
Yeah.
So I have 3 things that I would consider basically grails that I have. They're not the rarest things, but they're really cool. I have a Sharp NES TV. So a TV with a Nintendo built into it. So I can't pull the TV over on screen.
Now do you have the controller?
Here is the controller.
Oh, he's got it.
I also have the remote and everything. The one thing my TV is missing is the little door that flips up and says game. And ironically, in this little town that I currently live in, they have a Sharp NES TV and a game exchange, and it's missing the other stuff, but it has the game door, and they said, sorry, we can't part that out.
Yeah,
and I'm like, but it's already not complete. How about you just sell me that game door? I'll buy that.
How about you use your good name? You can take the door flap, and I'll take the rest of it. All right, we'll work something out.
You can still sell for the same price, and you can
exactly.
Like, don't care.
Hey, you just shout me out one of your books, and we'll call it an even swap. All right.
So that would be number 3.
Okay.
Number 2, I have a Super Mario statue that was not only given to employees, but the same guy who won the Power Fest tournament, Power Fest 94, has the same exact trophy.
Oh, shit.
Mine has no placard on it, but it's like made by the people who do Emmys, and I think it's worth like over $5,000 to $6,000. Like,
wow.
Yeah, my brother found it at a flea market in Ohio.
Wow, Ohio, good old Ohio. Ohio's good for something, right? Other than meth.
Ohio versus.
And the deuce is from Ohio, so.
Nice.
Meth and incest, baby.
I was about to say, hey, what can you say? Ohio versus everything.
That's right. My final one is not the rarest thing, but the coolest thing. I have a Nintendo Red Tent arcade. It's a Versus arcade. And it's fully customized, but it also has an official Nintendo conversion to a Play Choice 10 in it with serialized.
Wow.
And so I have every Play Choice 10 game that I want to play in it. And then including I have a few NES homebrew games converted to Play Choice 10. So that thing is amazing.
Awesome.
That's crazy.
That thing is
what do you value that at, out of curiosity?
So I bought it at Midwest Gaming Classic, believe it or not, like 4 or 5 years ago for like $500. Now, with everything I have into it, it's worth way more than like it's probably not worth as much as the statue, but it means way more to me because I
but if you threw something like that up on eBay, somebody in Germany would buy it off you for God knows how much.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I literally have all the paperwork for it. I even have the conversion paperwork, all the original buttons, everything.
That's cool. Mr. Mysterious, man. Actually, you know what? Let's do you last.
I'm in dinner right now.
Hey, hold on. The Doge. What do you got to ask, Mr. Jeff? Because you've been awful quiet tonight, bro.
I know.
What's up?
I've been staring into his soul and those amazing books that he's got that he's going to give to me for free. I can't wait to read some free stuff there, Jeff.
The Doge.
All right, let me ask you something there. What's your favorite kind of dog? Tell me what kind of dog do you like, because you better say this shit's the Shibu I'm going to attack you. What do you got there?
The Shibu. So, I have 2 Chihuahuas.
Are they
happy Scrappy Hero Pup looks like Scrappy Doo, but he's a little Chihuahua with a bent ear. Cool little dude, though.
No ladies in the house that I can hang out with over there. No, what's going on?
Oh, I got a female Chihuahua, too.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I'm very clean, I promise. I lick myself. I'm very nice and calm, I promise.
Lick it clean. That's right.
The Doge. Mr. Mysterious, you want to add anything you want to ask? I know you're.
I'll ask. I'm having dinner right now because I'm about to leave very shortly. But let me ask you, Jeff, and this is a really simple question. So you're playing in video games. What is your favorite go-to snack while you're playing video games and whatnot?
Typically coffee, like nowadays.
Really? Just coffee?
I literally work like 10 hours a day, so by the time I'm playing games, I'm tired as shit. So it's usually coffee. I don't usually eat too much while I'm gaming anymore. I used to be like potato chips or something back in the day. Yeah, like not too much though. Yeah, straight up coffee or a bang or whatever, those new things.
All right, so we have any topics you wanted to bring up tonight?
So there's a couple things that I'm known for that not a lot of people know about. So there was this thing in the Tetris community. Do you know the Tetris World Championships?
Yeah. Yep.
Do you know Boom Tetris for Jeff?
Yes.
That's me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I was the commentator in the finals with Chris Stang.
That's
so on
the
that
voice.
Whole thing. I'm the guy that said Peaceman places.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's good.
So what nobody knows, though, is that I was literally having an allergic reaction because I'm allergic to wheat bread. I was having an allergic reaction during that, and that's why my commentary was so crazy. It was hilarious.
Were you the guy that was saying, like, Tetris for this guy, Tetris for... Were you saying...
That's Tang.
Oh, God.
But I kept getting him so excited that he kept doing it a million times, and it was and I kept going neck and neck, and I kept repeating it. So the picture of the Boom Tetris for Jeff has Jeff, who's the guy who was playing, his giant neck on there.
Now, Jeff, speaking of Tetris... What do you think, or what are your thoughts or opinions on the rumor?
I'll be right back.
On the rumor that Thor is returning this year.
I mean, he never really quit. He's just a really quiet dude. I know Thor personally. I was actually on a podcast with him. We did a live podcast in Syracuse at a convention.
Cool.
And I hang out with him typically whenever we meet up at conventions now. Thor's cool as shit. I mean, if he comes out of retirement, he'll do what Thor does and excel. The only thing is, though, is that new kid. I saw him in Cali. Dude hyper taps and just chilling. Like, he's not even putting forth any effort. Like, he's just a prodigy. He's gotten, like, 5 or 6 levels past what people thought was possible. Like, the dude's completely humble, too, about it, but he's ridiculously good.
I had spoke with Thor maybe like 6 months ago, and he was telling me he was thinking about making a comeback. So I was encouraging of that. But
if anybody can compete with that dude, it'd be Thor.
I agree. That's what I said. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing that I've been doing though is I've been on GameStar 81's channel recently, and we did a pretty viral video on e-begging and that whole community. That's like, because there's like a whole like group of people that are like attacking a lot of popular YouTubers who have Patreons and all that.
Yep.
And John,
yeah.
And John and I talked about it because neither of us have a Patreon. I tried to do book releases, which actually 2 of my books I released through Patreon, and they failed miserably. They were like everybody just wants to use it as like a tip jar, and I couldn't like do like cool stuff on Patreon. I was trying, but it didn't really work like that. I was trying to use it like Kickstarter, just to pre-orders, and it didn't work. But like nowadays, though, people are like abusing it a little bit in certain circumstances, and then like some of our buddies are getting.
And I'll
attacked.
give you an example. Like in our community, so this is the deal with our community. So you'll get people who, now we're a Facebook gaming, obviously we're monetized on Facebook.
Sure.
First and foremost, all of our star donations go to charity.
Nice.
But you'll have people that will, not want to deal with the Level Up program and the stars. So they'll make Patreon, donate to my Patreon, donate to my PayPal. And you're right. Using a tip jar is totally not using it for what it's for, and it burns guys like yourself, me, who are trying to use it as in the proper form. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's terrible. So I definitely hear what you're saying there. E-begging is definitely
it's a thing.
I apologize, guys. My daughter was we're putting medicine in her. She has bronchitis, so that's why I had to run off there for a minute.
Ooh.
I do apologize about that, guys.
Not fun.
And of course about the whole e-begging thing. Yes, I mean there are people that's trying to get the word out. Trying to put all their hard work and effort. Just to continue to entertain because hey, they love this job as well. Especially people like Retro Revolution. They entertain people and everything. It's like you got the darker side of people using it as personal gain, using to attack and using these quote unquote call outs just to stir up drama. But hey, they get
notoriety,
paid,
right?
Yeah, getting paid to do that crap.
Yeah, and the irony is some of those channels, while calling out people, are still monetized as well.
Exactly. Right.
Exactly. Right. And that kind of irks me to the point of like, do I belong on YouTube because of this? And that's our question myself.
There's a reason why I can never have the time to do YouTube. I've tried. I leave all my videos up. Some are really bad, classics. But I just haven't had the time to do it right. And so I probably have a few hundred subscribers, but nowadays I just do some live streaming on it, and I don't monetize anymore. And it's one of those things where, honestly, the algorithms and everything make it almost impossible for somebody starting up to make it.
Agreed.
Yeah. And then people have to change to follow the algorithms, or your channel's flounder, which also isn't cool because I want to do what I want to do, not what's going to make me money per se in the eyes of an algorithm.
Right. And that's the same thing on Facebook, to be honest with you. I mean, that's the $1 million question. How do you trick the algorithm? How do we get in there and grind it out?
Yeah, and and the thing is, if anybody looks at even my Kickstarters, you'll see the money amounts going down, but if you look at how many people are getting the books, it's going up. And it's because I'm a publishing company, an LLC now, and through learning things, it costs me less to make the book. So instead of charging $60 that I charged my first NES book, I'm charging $40 for a 630-page Super Nintendo book.
Right, even more, right.
And it's bigger content and cheaper price. So the Virtual Boy book, I charged $30. And it's still going to be it's going to be the same. It's going to be 150 pages, so it'll still be a decent sized book. And I'm not charging $80, so it's not going to make $20,000. It's going to make 8 or 9, and that'll get me a decent print run.
It's I'm glad that you you come up with something have a goal for there are people out there using these types of goals and everything, just to what's it called, do all this up. Okay, I think I kind of lost the words, but never mind.
There's just some people that charge too much money when they're trying to raise funds, and like I did all the budgets, and like I'll do a small print run. Like if it was funded, like for the $2,000 I asked, I'll do a small print run. People get their books, and I might not do any extras, but people will get the books. Whereas now I can do like a crap ton of books, and it'll be cool. Like,
one last question, and then we got to wrap it up. But here, Joe Gallardo says, "What's your take on the emerging mini classic consoles, the analog console reimplementations, and the argument that games should still be played on the original hardware / TV sets?"
All right, so I mean that goes from a purist perspective to a convenience perspective, right? Now, the mini consoles, to me, are no better than just having a Raspberry Pi and having everything at your fingertips. Right. It's the same deal, except you're supporting the actual creators for it. They're still using emulation, so whether they tweak it or not and make it great like the Super Nintendo Classic, or they just put out a cheap cash-in like the PlayStation Classic, it's arbitrary, but then hackers will get a hold of it and you can open it up, which then essentially makes it a glorified Raspberry Pi.
Exactly. Right.
I mean, it is what it is.
With just a nice shell. It's a Raspberry Pi with a beautiful shell, right?
Yeah, but like a perfect example is every time my cousin Kyle and I, Kyle's the co-host of BGBS with me, every time we get together, we play NES, but we play it on a tiny little freaking CRT in his house. And it's like back in the day, and it's literally an NES. We put the top loader in. We were playing Double Dragon 2, which came from our Double Dragon 2 episode. We were playing the Famicom version, which is by the way. Famicom Double Dragon 2 is harder. We have a world record on that too. Anyways, playing it on a tiny little CRT though, like, and then I could play it over here on this 4K.
Eat it, Steve. Eat it, pal.
Boom.
Keep going.
But I could literally play it on my big TV on an AVS, which the AVS is the HD Nintendo that plays perfectly with no lag. Yep. And it plays perfectly, but it's still not the same feeling because you don't have all the wavy lines, the little warping of the screen, the controller inputs, they feel the same now, but it's still slightly different. It's a nostalgia thing, completely nostalgia. And like if I didn't play like I didn't play the Master System growing up, so I'm not going to notice those little differences as much, but I still prefer it on a CRT. And that's the thing. So writing about these, so if I'd ever do a Master System book in the future, I would have to play it on a CRT because otherwise I could be complaining about something that doesn't really exist on the original system.
Right, exactly. You'll never know, right?
You never know.
All right. Well, I want to thank you, Jeff, for coming on tonight. Real quick, where can they find you? You're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube.
All of the things.
Awesome. And,
so on most of mine, you find me Hagen's Alley. So, Instagram might be the Subcon3, which is my little old user handle, but everything else is Hagen's Alley. Hagen's Alley Books, or HagensAlley.com is where you can find me. I got the podcast up there. I got links to my books when the campaigns go live. If you follow me on Kickstarter, you'll get an update, a little alert when I launch a book. And then youtube.com/Hagen's Alleys, where I'll do some live streaming. I'll actually do like when I'm building the books and everything on a live stream through OBS as a studio as well. Do some of that stuff too. And I try to stream as much as I can, but I'm out doing conventions and craziness. Like I'll be at Midwest Gaming Classic this weekend doing a lot of drinking. So, I mean, selling books.
Big gig over there.
No, Master Daniel Pacino, who played Scorpion and Johnny Cage, is going to make me do shots with him as he does every time I see him.
Nice.
It's ridiculous.
That's great, man. That is freaking cool. All right, it looks like that's it for today's show, guy. I have to go to work. I actually work overnight, so this is my finish up over here. But on behalf of T-Sleeves, Redbeard, Mike Maverick, the Deuce, the Dope, Trippy, of course, me, Mr. Mysterious, and special guest, the big man over there in the corner, Jeff Wittenhagen. Thank you for watching today's breakdown show. Oh, T just jumping in here. Giving those
kids, you know how that goes. But, Jeff, thank you again for coming on, brother. And I'm going to be buying some of your books for sure, and I can't wait for the Virtual Boy release. And, hey, maybe we could get you to come on and stream some Virtual Boy stuff.
If we could figure that out, that would be awesome.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you again, and thank thank you all the fans tuning into the breakdown tonight. And stay tuned. We got the Grizz coming up with some Final Fantasy VII remastered on the Switch. And then we got Tito Lopes coming up later with some Cuphead, late night at the Philippines.
Oh, no.
So again, Jeff Wittenhagen, guys, check him out. Check out his books. He's got some really, really cool books. And as we say here on Reds, he's a straight nut dragger. So,
Drag him.
Hell yeah. All right, guys. Good night, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Retro Revolution and the Breakdown.
All right.
Jeff Hagen, thank you so much, brother.
All right. Waving out here, guys. Again, see you guys later. Give it away to the crowd. You know what? Like we
Later.
Right, we're out of here.
Drag 'em. We out.
What a rush.
No sleep, no food, no nothing.
What's the classic one? He's like, what a booger. That's the classic one.
All right, guys. Good night. Have yourself a safe one and stay safe. Retro Revolution coming up with more great stuff very shortly. We're out of here.
Peace.